The stitch width, stitch length, and needle positions are perfect for getting every stitch exactly the way you want it. Now, just because the machine comes up with a default setting for a stitch length doesn't mean that you might not need it longer or shorter. Now, one thing I do enjoy is that the picture is going to change. So if you're a very visual person, you'll notice that the width and length is going to be exactly what you see on screen will come out on the fabric. So when we're sewing along and we have a stitch length that is longer or shorter, we can always change it while we're sewing. Now, the number that's in yellow means that it has been changed from the default setting, and you can easily see, I love that you have so many increments. You know, so many machines just have like it's 2 and then 2.5 and then 3, and Bernina gives you every option in between. 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and actually 0.95 and then 3. So exactly what you need it for. Now, anytime that you want to just clear it back out, that will be with the clear button. When we go to do our stitch width, once again, you'll see numbers changing at the top here. And again, if your length and width are yellow numbers, they have been changed from the default setting. I'm also changing them even when I'm stopped and the needle is down. So that means that you can change it anytime, and not until the needle goes up will the stitch change or the settings go to their new altered setting here. So let's do needle position, and when we change our needle positions, whether it's in a straight stitch or zigzag or any other stitch, and I'll show you a great stitch I've used the needle position change. So here are the arrows. They'll take you left to right as your needle changes position. If you even just sew and change each of them, you have 11 needle positions across 9 millimeters, so you really get to precisely get exactly what you're looking for. Now, why would you need to change needle positions? Number one, if you've got the zipper foot on, you need to be on the left or right of the foot. The center would break the needle. So, and then also just top stitching, getting precise settings. Even with the zigzag, let me just go ahead and clear this kind of back to a normal zigzag. I can shift the stitch, like being able to move the whole stitch left justified or right justified. So now I'm sewing kind of over here on the right side of the foot. Oftentimes I'll utilize the open toe foot. Let me show you here. And the open toe foot, the inside of this toe, to really give myself the perfect setting. And the stitch that I love to do that with is actually in our quilt menu, and the blanket stitch. So the blanket stitch comes up in center needle position, but the stitch is not symmetrical. So this is a great time to utilize the needle position, slide the whole stitch to the far right, and then utilize the inside of the toe as your guide as you go around the raw edge or edge of your fabric that you're putting the blanket stitch on. Now, if you want to save the settings to any of these stitches, like I'm always moving this needle position over when I pick this stitch, you can go into the eye for information and save that. This is going to overwrite the default setting of this machine. Now, you can always unsave it with the little button right next to it. But when you do save it with that needle position, when you turn the machine off and then turn it back on, that is your setting. Now, it'll always remind you with the little yellow eye that that has been manipulated and it's not where it used to be. So you can always go back and know, oh yeah, that's right, I changed that. Those are my settings. Every stitch in this machine can be customized to the length, width, and needle position you sew it out with. So for the straight stitch, if you're always doing that at 2.75, you can go in here, and actually I don't need my needle position moved over. I'll put it back to the center. Save it. Now every time you turn the machine on, that is the length that the stitch comes up with. So we love that feature on the Bernina. Bernina's always given that to us, and it's really nice. Now, if I just want to, let me go in. I'm going to undo that so it's not yellow and distracting us. I'm going to do one other thing. So we're back to straight stitch, zigzag, nothing is off the default setting. One of the things I love is that if I have I don't need to save it forever and ever, but I am sewing a straight stitch with just a little longer stitch length, for example. And then the zigzag, I'm going between this zigzag and this straight stitch, and I've got it just perfect dialed in. When I leave this zigzag and go back to the straight stitch, it remembers the length I set it at. And that is kind of a temporary memory option that Bernina has always had on their computerized machines. I love it. Now, as soon as I turn the machine off and on, yes, that will turn off. But as I bounce around to other stitches and come back to those two altered stitches, the zigzag zigzag that I made wider and longer, and the straight stitch that I made longer. Everything will be remembered. So again, while you're sitting down, if you've kind of dialed it in and you leave that stitch, it's okay. When you get back to it, it will be remembered. But for long-term memory, go to the I for information and save it as your own. That's how you get it to save and return after you turn the machine off. So practice your stitch length, stitch width, needle position, and you'll definitely see what you see on the screen is what you get on your fabric.